So we got some pretty big news here, some pretty interesting stuff. Now we know as Kamala Harris has been surging, but some of the numbers there was a little bit of a contraction in the past couple weeks, but it looks like her numbers are going back up again post debate. However, almost all of the aggregates are being really bombarded with a lot of the bad pollsters from back in 2012, from 2022. Sorry, so like pollsters like Coefficient, Wick, Patriot Polling, Insider Advantage, Trafalgar Group. Those five are really horrible. So anytime you see those, you can't take them seriously. Quantis Poll is also another really horrible one as well. But one kind of unexpected, really interesting thing that's actually happening for Harris is, she's obviously surging nationally as well as in swing states. But what's also really interesting is she's actually also surging in some Republican states, which is pretty interesting. So some conservative state surges. We got a new poll coming out from Alaska. So for Alaska, it says Trump 47, Harris 42, Kennedy 4%. So she's only down 5 points in this brand new Alaska poll that has come out. This is by Alaska Survey Research. And so we can actually take a look at this over in the 538 numbers. So check this out. There's this big surge happening. So entirely post debate, September 11th through 12th, so fresh off the presses, 1254 likely voters, with a very large sample size, and you have Trump only up by 5. Now you can see the prior signal poll was Trump plus 10. This is not by Alaska Research, so it's not a one-to-one comparison. It might be different, right, if there's a signal poll, but it's sponsored by Republicans, as you can see here. These little diamonds being sponsored by Republicans. It's Trump plus 10. And in the news poll, it's Trump plus 5. So she's actually surging from the last poll she had at the end of August. This is a post-debate poll, the Alaska Survey Research one. The Bullfinch Group polls for Biden had Trump up 23 and Trump 19, respectively. And then if we go further down here, this is back in February. Trump was plus 12, so she's doing better than Biden back in February. And then of October of 2023, Biden was down 8 and 7, of which she's also doing better than. These are the Alaska Survey Research polls. So she's actually doing even better than October 2023 Joe Biden. And this is a one-to-one comparison, almost identical likely voter sample size. This two are in October plus 8 she's performing better than. And she's also doing better than the July poll, July 18th through 21st, where Trump is plus 7. She's also doing better than that one as well. So she's doing better than all of the Biden polls. And she's doing much, much better than these Bullfinch Group polls, or recent Biden polls. But she's also doing half the amount as her recent Alaska poll. Now, Alaska is pretty interesting. If we take a look at Alaska, I think they have like 3 electoral votes. That could be big because there are some tie scenarios. There could be 269s. Both ways, there are some legitimate scenarios for that to happen, so it could end up being a tiebreaker. But we can see here Donald Trump got 52.9, Hillary Clinton got 37.7. So, you have about like 15-point victory pretty much. Gary Johnson getting 5.9%. And let's go ahead and check out what happened in 2020. Well, look, so 10% deficit in 2020. So we could see an increase of 5%. So a third of the deficit was sliced off. That's a pretty large proportion sliced off. So it'll be interesting to see if Kamala Harris can make some more gains in the state. We could see kind of in these areas what the breakdown looks like in terms of, kind of the voters here, 60.4 here. Some of these areas seem to be kind of red. Ed 9 seems pretty massively red, these kinds of areas here. And then the areas around Juneau seem to be blue. So if she can make some, inroads in the areas around Anchorage and, Fairbanks and everything, that'd be good. Looks like the Fairbanks area is slightly blue. So she has more money than she can imagine to have. So I would say it's definitely worth just putting something in there, just to kind of mess around. Obviously, you're not going to flip the state, but can you bring it to within 7? Can you bring it within 5? That would be huge. And, with Georgia, for example, nobody expected Georgia to turn blue, but, it was a trend forward, right? So it got closer and closer. So similarly here, again, don't think so tunnel vision where it's just about this election. Obviously, being able to, kind of surge forward is a big deal as well, just like Georgia was able to do the same thing. Texas keeps halving its numbers as well. So Alaska is kind of an interesting one that might be able to do it. And 3 electoral votes can be helpful. That's half of Nevada's numbers as well, and it can also break a tie. But Alaska is not the only state, though. So we also got a new Arkansas poll that had dropped very recently. This is from Hendrix College, 696 likely voters. This is September 5th through 6th, so it's not a post-debate poll, but very recent, only 10 days ago. And we can see Kamala Harris is actually only down 15 points. Now, how did she do in how did Biden do in Arkansas? So it was actually 62.4 to 34.8, so just beneath 30 points. So it was like 28 points or something like that, maybe 27 and some change. So that's a pretty massive surge forward. Trump plus 15 is like a 12-point move forward. So something seems to be going on where there's also this weird surge, even on Biden numbers, where she's boosting like this. That's 2020 Biden numbers. And obviously, if you look here, this Biden poll in October has Trump up 32. This Biden poll in August has Trump up 25. And then even if we go back to 2020, the aggregate lead in the polls was 22.8. And what we're able to see is the same exact pollster, Hendrix College, their final poll that they dropped in early to mid-October, basically mid-October, it's 34.58 for Trump, Trump plus 25. Notice that this is actually really close to the actual outcome. 34 to 58 and Trump plus 25. The margin was like 27 something, and you could see it was slightly underestimated Trump, but they got Biden's numbers exactly correct, right? They were actually closer than the average was. The aggregate number was 22.8. They were closer, so this isn't like, oh, it's like a biased pollster that always just goes Democrat. No, they were actually the best pollster here. They were the closest to the margin. This Trump plus 33 was farther off from the actual number than this Trump plus 25 was. So she's surging by basically all the markers in Arkansas compared to what 2020 was for Biden in all of the possible numbers. So honestly, what the hell is going on? What is the reason for this? How could this be possible? How could she be making this surge? There are some potential theorems. Some of them are actually that after January 6th and the kind of other issues, people are actually turning away from Trump. Those are some of the theorems. There's also an idea that there's this closeted MAGA vote where there's some MAGA people. I know that there have been at least one or two people in my live chat who have said that, they're closeted MAGA. They can't come out. It's actually harder for them to come out as gay than actually coming out as not being MAGA. Also, we went over how, some of these Google search trends here, like things like, private vote, or if you look up husband vote in Google Trends, you can see that, these kinds of things are spiking. If you look at the past 30 days, what you can see is these kinds of things are spiking after the debate. Abortion was also the most searched issue. Husband vote peaked at 100. A lot of people searching, can my husband see who I voted for? Are there women in red states who typically feel controlled by their husband or are controlled by their husband who are now going to vote differently, and they're kind of searching it up, and you can see it's going up on the 15th. It's 57 compared to the 14th, so it's getting even larger in the Google search trends. So it's definitely maybe those are some kind of theorems that could potentially be happening right now. Also, another thing interesting, I don't know if this happened in any other states, but in Michigan in the 2024 primary, there was a silent Haley vote that actually got missed by 10%. So are there some of those kind of moderate conservatives who maybe are voting for Kamala that are getting missed by the polls? That's potentially true. We know people like Toomey and, Gonzalez, the former AG, and a lot of these other Republicans are actually coming out against Donald Trump. Mary Trump on Twitter saying Trump is a domestic terrorist. That's like some really strong rhetoric that was not seen in 2020 or 2016. And then there also is one more we can look at as well. Oklahoma, a third state we can see. In this poll, Trump is up 16 points. So that is a surge forward here. So for the Oklahoma 2020 results here, we have Donald Trump actually winning by about 33 points. So the number now is about half the 33-point margin. So that's what this poll says. The previous polls had much higher for Biden in April. Signal was plus 30, Signal was plus 33, Emerson 28, 29. The only catch to this one is though, so in October of 2023, the same pollster, the Sooner poll, this is different because it's not sponsored by the same group here, but Trump was plus 12 on Biden. So in the same pollster, not sponsored by the same people though, so it's a little bit different. The margin was actually slightly lower for Biden. So this one might be a little bit interesting to see, but maybe if we get more Oklahoma polls, we can see. But I think making ground in these states is good, just kind of generally. Obviously, you're not going to win any of these three states. However, Alaska is the only one where you could probably make some ground. But I think the more blue you can turn red states is good too, unless you kind of think of it maybe potentially as a zero-sum game, and so you could end up wasting money and that kind of stuff. But it does seem pretty clear Kamala is surging against Biden's numbers in 2024, and maybe even in the state of Arkansas, she's actually beating even 2020 Biden numbers, right? In the same pollster we looked at, right? The same pollster now had put her at, I think, at like 15 or something. I forgot already. And then the prior one back in 2020 that was really accurate, super close to the actual result. They moneyed Biden's number. They just underestimated Trump by 4, but they were only off by about 2.5 points from the actual result margin wise. They were actually more accurate than the aggregate, is now showing a massive surge, right? The same pollster. So something is going on. I'm not sure if it's some kind of like moderate Republican surge or what's happening in Alaska. Some people hypothesizing the people are not like MAGA people there, so they might be more down. I think one of the states has a solid black population. I think maybe, I'm not sure, but pretty interesting. And so you let me know your thoughts down below. What's going on here? Why is it that she's surging in the Alaska, Arkansas, and Oklahoma polls? And we looked at the Arkansas polls, the same pollster that was the closest pollster out of every single one there we saw in 538. They were the closest in terms of margin. Why is she surging? That's kind of an interesting question. But yeah, it'd be pretty fun to see what happens and, see how this kind of continues to develop.